Hey, welcome to Tilted Pod. This is Jack Wilds. My name is not Jack Wilds, by the way.
For anyone who didn't know.
If you guys didn't know, my name is not Jack Wilds. I got to turn my microphone down a little bit, I think.
Normally he says, "Do not call me."
Yeah, and I don't know, but I don't think anybody understands. It doesn't actually make sense what I'm saying. It just sounds good and rolls off the tongue well.
Dive into it. Take like a minute and just
right,
go for it.
So, Seth, don't call me Jack Wilds. So, I was in a band called The Wilds. My daughter's middle name is Wild. I am a big fan of Wild as like, that is my persona. Mm-hmm. My persona non grata, or if you will. Like, yeah. That's like what I want to be. So, a lot of my, like, I guess, Xbox username. And so I tried this weird side project in music at one time where my name was Jack Wild. And it was it kind of sounds like a huge ripoff of Jack White. So it was Jack Wilds. But it also, like, it was this really cool punk, like, not punk, I don't know how to explain it. It's like if the Talking Heads met with, like, Ty Segall, who does our intro music. He doesn't know he does our intro. Don't tell him. Don't tell him. And like... let's see, Waylon Jennings, and maybe even like Randy Newman all got together. Yeah. It's almost spoken, yet very cool. But all the songs were about cowboys, and my I called it Jack and Elijah, and it was a person. It was an album that actually had a whole story. And the idea was Jack was my bad side, Elijah, which is kind of more like biblical, was like my good side. And at night, kind of, it was a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
I was about to say like Jekyll Hyde thing.
So Jack would come out, and Jack was a gunsman. Jack would like to shoot people down. Jack would like to pillage and not rape or anything, but like, you know what I mean? He liked his women. He wasn't like he wasn't abusive.
He liked
the whole
party.
Story was like, it was about how Elijah like kind of had this whole like perfect life, and then one day something happened, tragic happened to it, and it caused like a fracture in his psyche, and Jack was born.
Yeah, that's really cool because it's like representative of like your Jack persona on stage too.
Yes, is exactly what the whole idea was. Like, I get really weird on stage. It's like it's basically the idea was like at one point I got on stage and I was like, okay, I'm a different person up here. I like to have like my two personalities, my Elijah and my Jack. So, and then because the Wilds band and because all these other things, I was just like, Jack Wilds. So I used it for everything. I've been using it for my gamer tag for a long time. I've been using it for, on Tilted Pod stuff. I call it. So for some reason, when we first started this podcast, when me and Nate sat down, I was like, Seth, don't call me Jack Wilds. My last name's not Wilds. My last name's Anderson. But it just Seth, like Jack Wilds, that's really what I am when I'm coming to a tournament. I'm coming as Jack Wilds. If I come as Seth Anderson, I suck. If I'm coming as Jack Wilds, you better be prepared to get beat.
You're very much kind of like the Wilds character on the podcast too. A lot of the times.
Sometimes, yeah. I think it can get even weirder if I'm by myself even. There are some lost episodes of this podcast where it was when the podcast was first beginning, and I was trying to talk friends into being on a podcast with me. They're like, dude, no one listens to Magic Podcast. This is like 2 years ago, and I was like, guys, people will listen to Magic Podcast. Guess what? Magic Podcast is super popular right now. Obviously, ours isn't the most popular, but if you're listening, you've been listening, we appreciate you so much.
We love you.
But I have about 4 episodes that I did by myself. I just never got released because it's frankly kind of psycho. Like, it's
like
real
doing
weird.
A solo podcast.
And it's so weird. Like, I did like a solo review of what set like 2 years ago, a set that was coming out. I did. I just talked. I just talked about anything I was feeling, and I filled like 30 minutes easy.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I got to cut this off. and I send it to a few people, and they're like, it's actually pretty funny, but it's not really informative. You're just kind of rambling about like things that you...
Which we often do.
Which right now is what we're doing. Like, I think our new median right now is like, let's just be us. Let's just talk about whatever is on our head, like in our heads right now.
Well, and it works because 60% of what we think about at all times is Magic related.
Which is, yeah, and I also want to... I think there might be a time on this channel... If you're listening to this, we're going to talk a lot of Magic. And when me and Mac are together, we're going to talk Magic for sure. But I definitely think there's a time and a place on this channel where there might be a solo pod from either one of us or from anyone that is in our friend group that's like, guys, sometimes I want to talk about Nick Cage movies. Yeah. And lately, it's not even Nick Cage movies. Sometimes I want to talk about crazy 80s action flicks. Or I want to talk about what it's like to ride the bus as a child, because I just was thinking about it. And I want to get it off my chest.
Sometimes that's where your mind goes.
Yeah.
The solo podcast thing is interesting because I feel like it's in the same kind of vein as, so you go watch Magic content creators on YouTube, and a lot of times they're by themselves, but they're doing their thing in a format like where they edit what they're saying, you know what I mean? Like, okay, so say they're doing a set review specifically, and they go through and they discuss the set review, and that's how they do it. It's not really the same kind of thing where you are able to have a conversation with someone else, and that's what makes the podcast. When you're by yourself, it kind of ends up being more of a linear thing.
Right. Yeah, it's completely different. So here's one thing that I think is kind of funny where you're talking about edited. So me and Mac are going to run a Legacy League here in just a little bit. I think we should run Eldrazi because I think it's a deck that you could learn really well, and I know already, and we can benefit from that. I tried playing Grixis Control. It is extremely hard, and we're about to talk about Grixis, how cool the GP coming up this weekend is going to be. Like, the coolest thing ever, but we're not getting into that yet. We're going to talk about Andre Maguchi. Okay, so Gucci Mane...
He's just the best.
He records Legacy videos, right? And I honestly think he is like a big part of why Legacy has become popular again. Because even people who don't like or like don't play Legacy watch his videos.
I don't play Legacy competitively at all. Like, I don't play it on MTGO. I don't play it in paper. The only time I play is when we hang out and we play pickup games. The only Channel Fireball videos I watch are Gucci's.
Yeah, because he's great.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's hilarious.
He's a great guy.
He's just super like sweet and endearing, and his voice gets me.
It's like if you can make him tilt in his video, it's almost like a magic bunny shit or so, like an Easter. You know what I'm saying? Like what just happened?
Yeah.
You know, like it doesn't happen.
No.
Like I've seen him tilt off twice.
Typically it's like he's like, okay.
Yeah, he's just like, oh.
That is annoying.
Yeah, like something like that. It'll be like, with our really bad Italian accents.
Yeah.
Gucci, we want to get Gucci on this show. You know what? Actually, if you're on Twitter, you listen to the show, reach out to Gucci. We're going to reach out to Gucci. We're going to get Gucci on this show.
I'd love
because
to.
I've never heard him on a podcast, and he is hands down my favorite Magic personality.
He's super great. He's definitely in my top 3 for sure.
Yeah, and he just does what he does. Anyways, he had this video that came out today. That was him playing Eldrazi, Stompy. And he was like, yeah, we played this deck at the Pro Tour. He played it on his team. He played the Legacy Seed. He was like, I only picked it as a metagame call. I do like the deck, but I picked it as a metagame call. And he was like, we thought there was going to be a lot of miracles there. We thought there was going to be a lot of... Sneak and show, but Sneak and show without Omniscience.
Yeah, which the opposite was true.
Yeah, he was like, turns out it was all Sneak and show with Omniscience and Cunning Wish, which is bad for me. And then it was no miracles there, hardly at all. And it was like Grixis Control and other decks that are so fine.
And I love what he said. He said so it ended up not being the best meta call, but it's still fine.
But it's fine. Yeah. And so he plays through this league, and he gets unlucky in this league to where he has to play against I don't know how many wastelands in this league. I mean, it's actually a very short video. It's like maybe
30 or 40 minutes.
No, it's a little longer than that. I think it's like maybe an hour and 20, like top. But for an entire league, that's like pretty good because most league videos are two and a half
they take
plus.
a while. Like for me to play through a league takes like 2 hours.
Yeah, So he runs through this whole thing in like I think it's between 50 minutes and an hour 20. So maybe there's like a 30-minute gap there. I know that's pretty bad, but he ends up playing against Wasteland deck after Wasteland deck. Spoiler alert: he goes 4-1. He 2-0s every deck he doesn't lose to. He loses to one deck, and that deck is Aggro Loam. And he really wasn't even that far off of beating them. They drew three Wastelands in the first 3 turns.
And they also get Knight of the Reliquary and just loan back Wasteland. It's kind of just the worst matchup in reality.
But the whole point of this story was, you were saying, to digress back to what you were saying, when you're doing something solo or you're recording a video as a pro or you're doing this and you can edit it, Gucci in one of the games... There's like a weird Italian horn.
Yeah, it's like a doorbell or something. It's like a weird doorbell.
It's like this weirdest horn sound. And then all of a sudden you hear him like get up and shuffle around. And it sounds like he like
his feet are like
takes his blinds down. It sounds like he like and like looks up like I'm picturing this in my head. He's like, what guy is walking out of our window? He like brings or he like ordered food. I don't know, but he didn't edit any of it out.
Well,
and he just left it all in.
He's talked about it in the past, and he also talked about it in this recent video too. That the whatever software he's using for screen recording doesn't allow him to
doesn't
pause.
like to pause. I think he's like tech unsavvy as hell. Like he just
it's
doesn't.
Possible. But it was so funny because you could, like you said, you could hear him scuffling his feet. He was like he booked it to the door and back. Like
it
was like
every
not
sound.
Even 8 seconds that he was gone.
You could literally like close your eyes and hear everything he was doing and like picture it. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I was great. Like, this is like a real insight into his life.
Yeah, and it was cool too because he had a thought that he was working on when he got up.
Yeah,
and then he sat down and immediately like completed a sentence. He left like halfway through a sentence.
It was so weird. And that weird, what was that? That it was like,
I'm sure it was a doorbell or something.
Okay, so like I've been to Europe and the cars there are different.
Yeah.
Right? Let's just be honest. Their cars are much smaller.
Oh yeah, totally.
There's like no...
Their roads are like... European roads are like half the size of American roads.
Yeah, even their semis are tiny.
Yeah, you don't really have semis in the sense of like a tractor trailer. You know what I mean?
No, they're just little
they're like a box truck is what we would consider
with
it.
Like super tiny little cute fronts. They're so cool. It looks like my daughter could pick one up and just play with it. You know what I mean? Like you can't see the motion I'm doing if you're listening to it, but one day we'll have a video.
And I love it too because like they're so here we have like these big diesel trucks, you know what I mean? Over there it's tiny compact cars that are also diesel.
Yeah, it's so weird. So I picture in my head when you hear that boop 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 boop, like it was the
whatever it was.
I thought it was like this tiny little Italian car, like
like
just
sitting in the corner.
Up. Yeah, like pulled up to his house and they were like probably like yelling something in Italian, like
like his food or whatever he ordered.
Yeah, or maybe not, or maybe they thought it was a girl. They went to the wrong house. So this guy in the car was in love with this girl. This is how deep my mom was. And he went to her house and he went outside of her window and he like he honks his horn and he goes like outside. Yeah, and he's like doing like that type of thing. And then Gucci runs to the window
just to check it out.
And he like
what's going on.
licks his hand down, and then has to walk out the door and be like, "Is this the wrong house? I'm recording." And then goes back inside, and then we hear him shuffle back to the thing,
and then like, finishes his
thought.
Magic.
Yeah, and then play some Eldrazi and go smishy.
Yes.
So, all right, we are going to get Gucci on this podcast. I don't care what it takes, dude. I don't care. That could be.
It'll happen.
It's gonna happen. There's no way, if I'm just like, dude, listen to how much we love you. Just here's a couple of podcasts. You know how, okay, so if you're an avid listener of this show, which no one probably is, you know how Nate used to love Todd Stevens? I think I have an unhealthy love for Andrea Mengucci like that.
Yeah.
Like, maybe not as unhealthy as Nate's love for Todd Stevens. That love was like, honestly, borderline psycho. Mm-hmm. But it's pretty high.
He was super into him, which is kind of like strange at some points.
He can't even see him in. I guess I've never run into Andre. He's like one of the only pros I've never been around, like at a GP or something.
Well, it's partly because he lives in Europe.
Right. I kind of want to make it out and just like figure out when I can, like, if he comes here, which he does come here for some things, I kind of want to just go and see.
Yeah, just go shake his hand, tell him how much you appreciate all the stuff he does.
Well, we're going to talk to him on the phone before that. We're definitely getting him on the thing. And he's just a good guy. So
while we're on this this tangent of favorite players, I'm going to go ahead and tell you my favorite player.
Oh, okay, yeah.
My favorite pro player who hasn't made such a splash as of late in the sense of being an active player, because he's not done well for a while now. And I'm sure.
I feel like I know who
just
it
go
is.
ahead and call it, because he's a favorite of many people.
Oh, okay. No, I don't think
Is LSV.
LSV always does well. What do you mean he hasn't done well?
I mean, like, we don't see him at Pro Tour top 8s, basically, is what I mean.
He's been like right outside of top 8, like the last 2 Pro Tours.
I thought his team did really bad at the Team Pro Tour.
This last one was really bad, and we thought they were all going to do.
But I love LSV. I love watching.
LSV's great.
He makes me really happy. Just him as a person.
He's also a person that. But here's the thing.
He's a great personality. No, you're fine.
Here's the thing with LSV. Apparently, he used to be quite a kind of a dick.
Really?
Yeah. Like I think he's calmed down quite a bit. Like now,
like he was like a real like Brad Nelson kind of guy.
I think, honestly, Brad, maybe, but I think Brad Nelson is kind of a fun guy.
Yeah.
Except he's
just really intense when you're actually playing.
Yeah, like I think he's just like the Terrell Owens of Magic. You know what I mean?
Sorry,
like,
there's a net.
He's like you know what I mean? Or name your thing. Like Kevin Durant or Russell Westbrook. There you go, Russell Westbrook of Magic. He's just super intense when he's playing a game. So LSV, though, I heard used to be kind of a poor sport, and I don't know if this is 100% true.
Mm-hmm.
This is all hearsay. I wasn't
Which
around.
most stuff is when it comes to this kind of stuff.
I wasn't around in those days, but I think he even talks about it. I think he talks about how he used to have kind of more of a bad outlook, on the game.
Mm-hmm.
Same with like Eric Froelich. He used to be a complete turd. And I do know that for a fact. Like I do know that he was a very complainy person.
Yeah.
And now he is much more enjoyable to like hear or listen talk about. I just like that when these pros like change it. You can finish your thought about how you love LSV, but it's cool to me to see somebody who like maybe did have kind of a darker past of like just being kind of a not a shady player. That's the wrong word, but like a what is the word? Like a sore player.
Yeah.
Become America's sweetheart.
Yeah, exactly. Like. Well, and then you have people like Reed Duke, or who have just always been just the sweetest, kindest, most wonderful people in the whole world.
Wait till I spoil this news for you.
Spoil news?
I don't think you know what is about to happen this weekend.
Oh no! I totally know what's gonna happen.
Oh, you do know?
Yeah,
okay.
Because I watch coverage over the weekend. I totally know, and I'm super excited about it. But let me just finish my LSV thought super fast. Love LSV. He's my favorite. The reason I like LSV so much is because particularly his content that he creates, he's not serious all the time. You know what I mean?
Super goofball.
Like that's something that I've always kind of stuck with as far as Magic. Like, yes, I want to be the best Magic player I can. Yes, I understand doing that means I have to be serious, when I'm playing.
More often than
because I almost exclusively used to play casually. Until I started playing in FNMs and stuff like that. And not until recently have I gotten into this mindset where I need to play 100% tight all the time.
Quick side note, though. Is casual playing even fun to you anymore?
No.
It's just not fun.
It's not
to me.
At all.
If I'm playing something and I'm playing with stuff that I'm just like, and I know that there's better cards, better lines, better plays out there, I'm like, I can't. It ruins casual Magic.
It's why I've had such a hard time when friends recently have like invited us to go play Commander and stuff.
I just can't do it. Unless we're playing one-on-one competitive Commander, I don't like it.
Yeah,
it's
right?
Not, because I know there's like a better thing.
That's the first thing I said when they had asked me if I would come play Commander with them, or if I wanted to, rather. And I was like, all right, sweet. I get to play Baral as my commander, right? And they're like, nah, he's banned. And and instantly I was like,
then I don't want to play.
Yeah, then I don't want to play Commander.
Because I already know he's the best one. All right, so I'm sorry, but
No,
I
no.
just I had to
You're
ask that though
fine.
because it is
Yeah,
funny.
it's
You
not
came
fun
from,
at
you
all.
came from a and most
It used to
people
be
do.
the best.
Yes, you came from
I certainly have nostalgia
for it and
for playing
I wish I could
casually.
go back to kitchen table magic
and
just can't.
sometimes I feel that way when we're playing you and I together, on our pod nights or whatever, because we have fun when we play, but we're still trying to play well.
Yeah.
But
We do play lazy sometimes.
Yeah.
Like or we won't
Or
board. We won't
lose,
play
I
board
guess.
games for like we'll just keep playing round ones. It's like, oh, this matchup is
well,
stupid.
I kind
We'll
of
just keep playing.
like doing that though, like playing like maybe 6 pre-boarded games and then playing 6 boarded games.
Yeah.
Because it gives you a really good idea how it goes and like what cards are actually good.
I think
in
our
both versions of the
testing
match.
so as a team and as a podcast and as a group of play, and I think all Magic players as a whole, testing is something that we say we're doing, and when half the time we're just kind of having fun.
Mm-hmm.
Testing is a lot different than what we do as testing, I think. Like we play games.
Mm-hmm.
I think real testing is a lot harder than what we do.
In what sense?
Like actually trying to gather real
Information.
We
Very
don't
similar to like
really-
how TJ has spreadsheets of his MTGO
Exactly.
progress.
We don't really think it through.
Yeah.
We kind of only think it through in the moment.
We're like,
really
oh yeah,
only-
Dismember was really good that game. That seems like a good card.
Really, yeah, we're not. Our testing, and I've tested where we were testing with like, okay, it seemed a lot more serious.
Mm-hmm.
When we're just playing games, we're testing a matchup, but we're kind of more just having fun.
Yeah, so I guess ultimately that ends up being our casual play.
But at least we're playing with that, like we're playing with decks, and we're playing with a skill level and knowledge of the
Yeah, regardless.
the matchup that it's not casual.
Yeah, regardless of
It's casual
whether we're trying to
competitive.
have fun or not, we're still trying to play the best that we can and play the best cards and the best lines.
But going back to just straight up casual Magic,
No,
once you
it's-
get in the competitive scene at all, once you've played in one Open, I don't think you can go back and have the fun that you used to have.
honestly, like for people aspiring to want to be a better competitive player, try something I didn't do was try and hold on to my love for casual play. When I got into playing super competitively, I just tossed it aside and forgot about it completely because I thought to myself, I don't have any friends that I play casual Magic with anymore. This is just what I want to do. And now, ultimately, because of that, I don't enjoy it. If you're trying to be a better competitive player, try and also simultaneously hold on to your casual play.
Here is
Because I think
here's my tip.
I'd have a lot more fun.
Here's my tip for both you and I and everyone who wants to hold on. I agree with you. This is how I have fun playing Magic. It's called Cube.
Yeah,
It's that simple.
That's a great segue back into why I love LSV. Because
Cube.
LSV
Loves
is
Cube.
very is in a similar position to us. He wants to play well. He wants to take the best lines. He
But he
wants to
also
play with good cards.
He wants to have fun, though.
But he also wants to have fun. He plays a ton of Cube.
Cube is honestly, I can't believe no one in our playgroup has a cube. A big reason why we don't though is our playgroup's not quite big enough to have a cube
Yeah.
all the time. I want to figure out how to just like 2-man cube where like me and you could just be like just grab random piles out of this
and
thing
go for it.
I want a cube so bad because I will say it's my favorite thing to do on MTGO.
Yeah.
I don't care what else is going
Like
on.
vintage Cube on MTGO looks like so much
Cube is a
fun,
blast.
dude.
Legacy Cube is probably my favorite. Vintage Cube is just like busted.
Mm-hmm.
Legacy Cube is actually like it feels a little more balanced. Vintage Cube, if
you get to
you
like
start
you get to
drafting power-
actually draft real combo decks that work.
it's real crazy. Like it's really crazy. But the only problem with Legacy Cube though right now is like mono red is still just like the best deck, probably overall. Vintage Cube is just no man's land, dude. You could have like the craziest deck. Reanimator is like wild in both of them. I have not played the Pro Tour Cube. I kind of wish I had.
What is the Pro Tour
Okay,
Cube?
so the Cube right now on I think it's actually not live anymore.
Okay.
But on MTGO, they did a Pro Tour for the 25th anniversary. They pulled cards from every winning Pro Tour deck and made a cube out of it.
Awesome.
So it's not really it's not like a vintage cube. It's not really like a legacy cube. It's just
kind of like
it was a PT-25.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, there's really busted cards in it for sure, but you also have like scrap heap trawlers in it and like regular like
You
cards
say scrap heap trawler.
or scrap heap scroungers. Sorry, yeah. The combination in cube, you get to combine them. It's like when Dragon Ball Z does the fusion thing. Fusion. They like get together and their hair goes.
You get scrap
golden,
heap trawler. It's
and
like
you get scrap heap
pay one in the black, return an artifact from your graveyard at instant speed.
Dope would that card be?
Busted.
But okay. So, anyways, I didn't get to play that, but I think that looks really fun. I think Pauper Cube looks really fun.
I think Pauper in general looks super fun. We have a lot of friends who play Pauper.
I just started listening to some Legacy only podcasts that I had never listened to before, because I think I really want to dig my heels deeper into being a Legacy person, since so many people in our group are Modern people.
And it's what you like too.
I love it, dude. I really do think it's just hands down the best format. No offense to any other format. I'm not trying to keep my chin up or have my nose stuck up at any other format. I just honestly, for me, it's the most fun. I invested in it early because I knew I really liked it.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Like, you've been in Legacy for so long. The reason I myself have difficulty having a desire getting into playing Legacy, like even just like renting a Legacy deck on MTGO and running it through a league, is because
if you love it,
I just now, in reality, have a complete understanding of Modern.
Oh, completely understand that. Yeah, that's a big deal.
So for me to simultaneously try and get better at playing Modern and learn another format at the same time,
and they are very different.
That's a lot for me, I think.
Honestly, they are very different.
So that's why I haven't been so into playing Legacy in the past couple months.
Here's the truth about Legacy, though. I think Legacy will fundamentally make you a better Magic player, as will Limited. And I think Modern is one of those formats. I think Standard will do the same thing. I think Modern is one of those formats that I think is just the most hostile. Like the most, you're going to have more just random polarizing bad matchups in Modern than anything else.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how well you know it. You're just like, all right, well.
Like, do you think Modern is the format that you go to after you've gained all of these skills from playing Legacy, Standard, and Limited formats?
I think Modern is the one that I would start someone out on almost.
Really?
Yeah, honestly.
So you think it's the complete opposite?
Except for the fact that there's more mechanics you have to learn.
There's also a million cards. Like, there's a million cards in Legacy too, but in reality, in Legacy, there's like... Okay, so Modern compared to Legacy, essentially anytime you go to play Legacy, there's a better... like functional reprint of a card, even though this like it was obviously printed before the Modern version. But like, okay, so like Cryptic Commander, any kind of counter magic in the Modern format is dwarfed by Daze and Force of Will. Yeah. So in reality, the card pool is smaller than Modern as a whole, because the cards that are good are just so much better than all the rest.
Well, okay. I can see what you're saying there. I disagree.
Okay.
I don't know, as no disrespect.
No. It's fine.
I completely understand what you're saying.
Keep in mind, I don't know anything about Legacy in reality.
I completely understand what you're saying, though. I think that very similar thing about Modern, though. Think about blue cantrips. What do we got here? Well, we got Op now. Yeah. And that was just recent.
Yeah.
And we have Serum Visions. And we had Sleight of Hand. So how many blue cantrips? I mean, those
we get
are all the
Thought
ones
Scour.
So in... Thought Scour. Okay, well, we're not really counting that as a cantrip.
It's super good.
That's a fuel card. That's an engine card.
Fair enough
for Delph. But that's exactly the same as Legacy. We've got Ponder, Preordain, and Brainstorm. Right. So you got your three, and honestly, Opt and sometimes some others. Opt I don't think almost never do you play that in Legacy, but you could. I guess, theoretically. Theoretically, you could play Serum Visions, but you never
Peak in Modern.
would.
People have been playing Peak recently.
People sometimes play Peak, because there's no good taxing probe. Yeah. But, so let's talk about our Delve threats or whatever. Let's talk about our big hitters. In Modern, very much the same things.
Gurmag Angler.
Right? You got your
sometimes Tasigur.
What are your big... Now we're even in Legacy and Modern both playing with like Death Shadows, Gurmag Anglers, Tassigurs. in Legacy, a lot less Tasigur. A lot more Gurmag Angler. A lot
Well,
easier to just cast.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think the draw to playing Tasigur in Modern is you don't always have a fetch to you don't always have double fetch to turn on like Gurmag Angler, whereas in Legacy you're playing almost exclusively fetches and then your dual lands.
So I think what I'm trying to get at is the Legacy. Okay, so the Modern card pool of cards that are good, most of the time are still good in Legacy, except for a few exceptions.
Yeah. Like Faithless Looting in Legacy's
It's still great.
god-awful.
No, it's great.
No? Why not just play Careful Study?
What? Over Faithless Looting?
Oh, because you're playing Black-Red Reanimator.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Like Faithless Looting is still a great card.
I was
and it has flashback.
for whatever reason, because we're talking about counter spells and cantrips, I was thinking
What I'm saying
about
is like
almost exclusively
yes,
blue.
You don't necessarily get to play. So all I'm saying is Modern. All the great cards in Modern are still most of the time very good in Legacy.
Yeah.
Except now Legacy gets to build on that foundation tenfold by a whole nother 10 sets or more than that. More than 10 sets, like a lot of sets.
Really, it's mostly the land base. You get dual lands that don't hurt you, and you get Wasteland.
Well, let's think about like Grixis Control. Probably the best deck in Legacy right now. I'm going to go ahead and put it out on a limb. That's like the best deck in Legacy. Trying to play it is crazy hard. But what are we playing with? We're playing with Liliana the Last Hope. We're playing with Jace the Mind Sculptor. Those are two things that are in Modern right now. We're playing with Snapcaster Mages. Snapcaster Mage is great. Now, what do we get as an additional buffer? Or we're playing with Gurmag Anglers too. Yeah, because we want a 5/5 that we can play for 1 mana. We can do that in Modern. Now, we do get Baleful Strix, which is a great card. Something that I think Modern, it would be insane if you had that in Modern.
Oh, it'd be busted.
We get the better cantrips, but we're still playing with we're playing with Fatal Push, Lightning Bolt. We get Diabolic Edict, which is great.
Get him to
Torok, which is great.
That's specifically considering discard. There's a big gap, I think, between Legacy and Modern, just because of him. Like him is so good compared to Wrenchmine, just because of the fact that it's random rather than get to choose.
Yeah, but I think the whole point I was trying to make is like I don't think the card pool is smaller. Because honestly, it just isn't. There's just more cards you can play. And the fact that there's so many fringe decks, yes, it does seem like that, but when you actually play a tournament, you never know what you might hit.
Yeah.
I played against Auriok Salvagers the other day. Do you know even any
I have no idea
what that card does? Yeah,
Couldn't
and so
tell ya.
I barely knew. And it's a Cheerios type deck that just it's called Bomberman. Just kind of wins out of nowhere, and I was like, I haven't played against this deck in years. I haven't seen this deck in forever. It got better all of a sudden because of a couple of cards that were reprinted, and now or not reprinted but printed in the newer sets, and it's like, I don't know. You know what else I lost to today? Playing Grixis Control. I lost to a Dragon Storm deck.
What?
Yeah, mono red Storm. That their kill was play Dragon Storm. Get out all of these dragons that deal damage equal the number of dragons you control. It had a Sarkhan in it. It kind of crushed me. I beat it one game, and I was playing Grixis Control, the best deck ever, and I wasn't playing bad. I was countering everything I needed to counter. He would have 0 cards in his hand, and then all of a sudden be like, all right, I drew a Burning Wish, and I'm able to Burning Wish into the right thing. One of the games, I think he just Goblin me for 30 on turn 2. It was just you get just Seething insane. Song and all these things.
Yeah.
So even though we're playing against the same cards, the way that you can configure those cards are a lot different too.
Yeah.
So you can have a Stoneblade deck in how many different configurations? You can have one that plays Thoughtseize, one that plays Noble Hierarch, one that plays blah blah. Yes, we're all playing Stoneblade, I guess, but at the same time, all of our auxiliary cards are different.
And I default to Modern because it's all I understand. It's very similar to how you approach mid-range as an archetype in Modern. You can play a mid-range deck, but you're either playing you're okay, I'm playing a Thoughtseize deck, but am I playing which version of my Thoughtseize mid-range in my playing. There's a bajillion mid-range decks
Right.
to play that share cards with one another.
That is exactly. Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It's cool.
So I'm not. I wasn't saying like okay.
No.
I'm just saying like
I think
I definitely get what you're saying though.
Yeah.
When it's like okay, well every top 8 deck I see is like the same thing. It's like we're just seeing, especially when Deathrite Shaman was around. It did really for a while. It was starting to feel like okay, yeah. Honestly, Legacy is like we
Kinda
have it
stale.
figured out and it's super stale and like we know the games are still very interesting. People didn't understand that the games were still extremely interesting. But yes, they kind of were stale, and Deathrite Shaman was kind of
as far
pushing
as metagame.
everything into like this. Just play every color because Deathrite Shaman is that good.
Because you can.
I think the format right now is amazing. I love it. I think it's the best it's been in a long time. We don't have miracles. We don't have this crazy Grixis Delver. I think all the decks have a shot.
Yeah, it's funny too because I'm gonna segue back into talking about Gucci. Earlier, you said in Legacy specifically, you never know what you're gonna play against. And Gucci's videos all the time, he'll like be in the blind against an opponent and just be like, okay, all right, I have no idea what I'm playing against.
Yeah, no, it's literally if you really play any Legacy tournament ever, you will realize that like even okay, say you might even think you're playing against a deck you kind of know.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, well this is Grixis. Yesterday I was playing against a deck. I was like, oh, this is Grixis Control easy, and then they reanimated me. You know, and I was like, what the? I just like wrote in the chat like, really? And they were like, why not? And I was like, I guess you're right. What am I? I was like, it was good there.
Did they board it in, or was it game one?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have been in their deck the whole time. I don't understand why you would board it in against a no draw. It was just like, wow.
Well, I mean, getting to reanimate the Thought Knot Seer that you force a willed on turn 2 feels pretty good.
You're talking about like a deck that runs Chalice to the Void. So if I just Chalice on one, you just kind of boarding in more one drops that don't seem that good. I don't know. Reanimate does seem to be very good against Eldrazi, and that's been bothering me lately. But it's also like, what are you doing? Like you were playing that is not what any Grixis control deck has been playing. So even when you're playing against a known archetype, you have to be different. Like, what are they playing though? Yeah. Because they could have a Braids, or they could be playing like Abrupt Decay, or they could be playing this other card. Or, for some reason Grixis Delver decide they want to play what's the dude called that you like right now? The 3/4 that Mardu Pyromancer's playing?
Bedlam Reveler.
Yeah. They could just all of a sudden be like, we're going to play Bedlam Revelers now.
Which actually seems kind of great.
And people will be like, how do you prepare for that? You don't.
Well, and I think this is where the idea of Legacy being a skill-intensive format comes into the thing, is like making decisions to continue to play out a match to get information about your opponent's deck versus just scooping when you know you've lost, which is something that I think a lot of people do without even thinking about it.
Yeah. I don't know. But I think Modern is the hardest format to just have a winning record all the time with. And I think that's just because...
You just got to play Living In and not play against any blue-white decks.
Yeah, sure. We got to do, we got to play Hollow One and always play 2 Hollow Ones on turn 1.
Yep.
You got to...
It's that kind of thing.
It's just so hard to... I don't know. You know what, though? We are going to take a short break, and we will be right back. Listen to this message from our sponsor, Standard.
Boop. Hello and welcome to Standard Tonight. I am your host, Goblin Chainwhirler. I'm going to go ahead and skip my monologue because it already consisted of killing all the 1/1s on the board. Tonight, our first guest, by far one of the most popular cards in Standard, Scrapheap Scrounger. Scrapheap, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. I don't even know. Dude, the fact that you sound so much like Casey Kasem.
Tonight on America's Top 40.
Yeah.
I this is interesting. Let's segue for a minute. I had a discussion with my mother the other day about somehow we got on the topic of modern music, like what's popular. And obviously my mother, being nearly in her 60s, does not necessarily enjoy new music.
Were you just gonna say specifically rap?
I was gonna say more so hip hop because I think that's more encompassing
Towards R&B and everything?
yeah, everything that's kind of popular right now.
So basically black people music.
No,
Okay.
because no, because she's not
She
even.
loves the Supreme.
Well, she's not even into like. she's more like a the Judds kind of girl.
I definitely could see that. But I could also see your mom getting down to some Lauryn Hill.
Yeah, maybe.
I could see her totally getting down to Lauryn Hill.
I just totally destroyed my mic stand, ladies and gentlemen.
I will say this: these mic stands
They're kinda
have been
garbage.
taking some abuse. We are going to have to invest. You know what? Sign up for Patreon and help us out because
Please.
our mic stands literally don't
Please.
work. In each episode, our mic stands have just been drooping as we're talking, and we have to fight to the floor to keep going.
It's really bad. But my point was, we got onto this discussion of what if Casey Kasem was still doing America's Top 40, and he's like, this week on America's Top 40, number 4 on the chart is Anaconda by Nicki Minaj, and he's like talking about girls shaking their booties around
Dude,
and
it would
stuff.
be great. I remember hearing Casey Kasem as like a kid. Like, I mean, you can still hear him. He's still like
Yeah.
around. Isn't the America Top 40 still a thing?
Yeah, they play it on radio stations. Well, because like America's Top 40, like the actual program right now, I think is Ryan Seacrest.
Oh, right.
But they
isn't
do
Casey Kasem still there?
they do like flashback replays.
Oh, okay. So
on
is Casey
Sundays
Kasem
or
still
something like
alive?
that. That I honestly don't know.
Quick Google check. Fill our time.
This week on Tilted Bad, we are going to take many breaks to Google silly information that's not relevant to Magic the Gathering. Please support us on Patreon so I can get a new mic stand because this thing is destroyed.
Nope. Casey Kasem died in 2014. Now that we've got that figured out, let's talk about this upcoming week in Magic. Bum, 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 bum.
So upcoming is a Legacy GP, which
And
doesn't
a standard GP.
and a standard GP.
But no one really gives a
Yeah,
shit about the standard.
I mean, Goblin Jane Whirler. Yeah,
Guys, if I didn't have my mother coming to visit my first child this weekend, I would do everything in my power to go play in this Legacy GP. It is not that far from us. It's like 4 hours away.
Yeah.
And it's a flippin' Legacy GP.
It's awesome. Everyone's gonna be there.
Everyone's going to be there.
This never happens.
So let's check out what it never happens this close. The Legacy GP is always in Vegas or in like Seattle or Portland
Yeah.
or like somewhere really far, and I cannot believe like I almost want to just be like, don't come because they're only coming for a day.
Yeah.
I just found out. I was like, just don't come, and maybe I'll go down there and I'll have more fun. But I do want my daughter to meet her grandmother. So let's talk about how they're doing. They're doing experimental. They're doing something experimental. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. So the first I heard of this was actually, so I was watching coverage over the weekend, and they're like, we have some special information
Dude, this
coming
is real
up after
special.
this round. And I was like, ooh, this sounds spicy. So they're working with this kind of new coverage format where they follow a pro player through their event in between rounds. So they will be in feature match multiple times throughout the day, obviously assuming they do well, which this is kind of where it gets kind of weird because it's not guaranteed that they will perform well.
Except for the pro player that they picked, who also just went 7-0 in the Legacy Challenge.
Is
and won it.
amazing.
And he's also probably going to be playing the deck that is the most insane. Like every game could be different. Let's just stop with all this.
Drum roll.
It's Reader Rabbit, the Reed Duke. We got
He's the
Reed
man.
Duke,
He's here. Everyone loves him.
who played Legacy for his team in the Pro Tour. Then he played Legacy in the last Legacy Challenge, and just was like, I'll casually just 7-0 this entire league. And then I don't know if he took the whole thing down, but I'm assuming he did.
And that's always how he approaches everything in his videos too. He's so humble at every point. Like he's always like, he's just the best. He's so solid.
If you liked watching Reed Duke play Jund, I bet watching Reed Duke play the probably arguably most decision like
Based
possible
format.
deck ever in Grixis control in a format where it's like the most insane decisions that you have to make, like you're gonna love this GP.
It's gonna be so cool, and that's
You're
why
gonna love the way you look. That's the new.
Is that my a Men's Warehouse?
Yeah, you're gonna love the way he
This
looks.
episode is not sponsored by Men's Warehouse, but Men's Warehouse sponsor us, please.
Anything.
Anyway,
We'll take
I mean, it'd
anything.
be so nice. Like, check it out. All the Tilted Pod dudes who listen
Looking good.
go to their tournaments, looking awesome, looking
Dude.
like Todd Stevens.
Yeah, and not like Todd Anderson, who I actually now love. But Todd Anderson, we want to have you on the podcast as well. When I first saw you, I was like, this dude, this is like his job, and he shows up in like sweatpants and flops.
Yeah,
And I was
that's
super not into that.
That's literally what I wore to the Open we went to.
Well, that's fine. That's not your job.
Yeah, that's
His
true.
job is literally this. But then the counterculture has made me like Todd Anderson more because I'm tired of people showing up in fucking suits now, dude.
Yeah.
Don't wear a damn suit to a Magic
Yeah,
tournament.
wear your
I think
pajama
it
pants
looks
to the
stupid.
Pro Tour. Go
No,
for it.
Like, it's dumb. I don't like the suit.
It's different when you're sponsored.
At the Pro Tour, fine. At an Open, don't wear a suit.
Yeah.
Bro.
Carry a
It's
briefcase.
looking dumb. And
Sorry, Todd
especially-
Stevens.
and
Sorry,
no,
Nate.
it's mostly Todd Stevens. At least that's his look.
Yeah, and that's like his player
There's-
profile too.
there's
He's like
dudes that-
he admits that that's like he's inspired to do that.
Yeah, and that's fine. I totally understand that. It's the Deion Sanders way of thinking. It's like look good, play good, play good, feel good.
Be best.
You know what I
the
mean?
Best
Like,
you can at all
I
points.
get that. So originally, I'm talking 4 or 5 years ago when I first saw Todd Anderson. I was like, dude, come on, like, because he was like one of my favorite SCG personalities, and I was like, give a little bit of effort, like just try a little bit.
Yeah, but it's interesting. I'm going to segue for just a moment. We'll get back to Reed Duke and here in just a second.
We're just talking about clothing
Yeah,
choices.
we go from new coverage tech to and Reed Duke
Well,
to
Reed
what
Duke
you
won't
wear.
be wearing pajama pants, and he won't be
Certainly
wearing
not.
a suit either. He'll be very casually dressed in a t-shirt that's properly fitting.
It's probably like a plain black T-shirt.
Very plain. It will probably say Channel Fireball on it. Like the small hand Channel Fireball logo in the corner
on the breast.
He's like, you can't tell if he's like kind of a little bit ripped or not. He's just
Oh, he totally is.
You can't tell though. He is definitely getting bigger though.
Yeah.
I definitely think he is getting more swole.
Which also ties into what I'm about to say.
Okay, sorry.
No. It's totally fine. It's interesting because, so me as a person, I followed a lot of different competitive things in my life. One of which is like competitive gaming, a game.
There's a competitive wrestling.
No, well, I mean, I used to be a wrestler too in high school, but it's the same for sports too. If you're going to approach Magic the Gathering as a sport, which in reality, if you're playing competitive Magic the Gathering, that's what you're doing.
Oh, that's why there's so many
approaching it-
meatheads in the game.
Yeah, you're approaching it as a sport. It is. There is an argument that the mindset of dress good, play good, or dress well, play well, rather.
Yeah, dress well, play well,
You know,
well.
you live if you live well, if you have a healthy lifestyle, if you exercise, you are at optimum efficiency to play well when you go to a tournament. If you go to a tournament healthy, happy, well fed, lots of nutrition, lots of water, you're that even beyond playtesting as much as you want, having a clear head and feeling good going into a tournament plays just as big as as big of a part.
Oh, I think that's huge, actually.
And that's something that me personally I lack, because I wouldn't say I'm unhealthily overweight. I'm a very healthy person. I have a very active job. I eat well, 80% of the time. But I don't go out and I run. I don't exercise regularly. I don't approach my, I guess, for lack of a better word, my training as being a competitive player. I don't approach it in that fashion the same way like a pro sports athlete would. I think
Right.
very much, like I said before, if you're approaching Magic as a sport, you should approach it with an athlete mindset. And I think that will improve your gameplay. and that's something that I've been thinking about transitioning into, is like getting healthier, because being healthier makes my play better.
Oh, it just makes your brain better. Period. Let's think about let's just name. I'm gonna name a couple of Magic players that have recently, not even recently, that have since I've been playing gotten a lot more fit. Huey Jensen. He's probably lost, I don't know, 80 pounds.
LSV.
LSV, way more fit. Way more fit. Well, now LSV was good before that. And Huey Jensen was good before that. But they all lost weight. Conley Woods.
Yeah, it's very specifically
ridiculous
Conley Woods.
amount of weight that he lost. I don't know if he's any better now.
Well,
than he
he's
was
certainly
before,
happier.
but he's much happier.
Yeah.
Reed
Duke.
Reed Duke, I definitely think is getting fitter.
Yeah. He's never been unhealthy.
Yeah, he's
he used
always
to be
just
skinny.
He's just been kind of the average, your
He's just been
average
Reed Duke.
build. But I feel like he's just getting bulkier and bulkier.
Yeah, and I think
like
that
in a good way. Like I think he's like pushing some weights while he's building those candles up there in upstate New York.
Yeah,
know?
dude, getting reps in while you're getting reps in with your, you know what I mean?
Here is one though that's a big one. Brian Braun-Duin. Brian Braun-Duin was very large, like very large. Brian Braun-Duin lost probably 80 pounds and still is a big guy. But like, if you lose 80 pounds and you're still a big guy,
80
that means
pounds is 80 pounds.
That's a lot of weight.
Like, do you know how good I would feel if I lost 80 pounds? For listeners out there who obviously can't see me, currently I weigh 260 pounds.
Oh, if you lost 80 pounds, that would be great. I mean, that would be very little.
Yeah, I would be very thin.
Yeah, very, very thin.
For my build, I honestly don't know if it'd be healthy for me to lose 80 pounds.
Yeah, that's crazy. But what I'm saying is, Brian Braun-Duin, I think he lost some. I mean, he lost a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And I might be exaggerating the numbers, but either way, he lost. He was a very big guy.
Willie Idol's been thinning out too.
Yeah, Willie Idol's been thinning out. He got pretty small. Guess what happened when he got pretty small? Well, I don't know. I mean, he also, from his story, it sounds kind of crazy. He also was sleeping on people's couches, but he's a world champion now.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think anybody thinks about Brian Braun-Duin and goes, that dude's not like of all the SCG grinders, he's like one of the few that you go like, it's like him and Brad Nelson, basically.
Yeah.
They're like that dude. And I think Brian Braun-Duin, even more to this day, is like when you think of a GP and a pro, like maybe not Pro Tour, but like GP and Worlds and all that, you're like, okay, Brian Braun-Duin, I put him over I put him over like probably Brad Nelson any day.
Well, and any of the other SCG guys too. Like he's one of those SCG personalities who's made the transition from SCG to like what I would say like Channel Fireball status.
Which is so weird because he got fired. I mean, not necessarily fired, but he got let go from SCG and Channel Fireball. This is a whole nother conversation that we might be getting too deep on this. In fact, let's talk about the difference between SCG personalities and Star City personalities next week.
Okay.
Because I think we can talk in depth
we could go on
about
forever about that.
The difference between these players. They're both famous, and I think honestly, it's kind of a spoiler. I think SCG players are a little bit more famous.
Yeah,
maybe not regionally and like nation in the U.S.
Well, I think a big part into that is SCG opens are more easily accessible.
And we'll go into those details.
Yeah.
But I think I would love to do an episode on the difference between an SCG grinder and a GP grinder.
Yeah.
And like where in the spectrum where we really think those people are. Because there's also a difference between the guy you've never heard of who is at every PPTQ and RPTQ, and like if you're really a grinder, you know this guy's name, but if you just watch SCG tournaments, you have no clue who this person is, but this dude is out there all the time.
Yeah.
And he probably could do really well on this.
Yeah, and
we'll save that for a whole episode.
We'll get way into that because
I
could talk on that for a really long time.
I think we can go super deep.
But regardless of whether you love Channel Fireball guys, Pro Tour guys, SCG grinders, doesn't matter. The fact is, Reed Duke is going to be playing this upcoming weekend in the Legacy GP. So the whole idea is you will be following Reed Duke throughout the tournament.
The idea, I think, though, is like, yeah, you follow one player, so you get to see. So you get to see almost like a bird's eye view of what it would be like to be going through this thing. The thing that I find very confusing and very difficult, and only Reed Duke could probably do this. One, do you think they pay him for this? Because this is like double the extra work.
I mean, maybe.
He's got to be getting something.
I think because he's sponsored by Channel Fireball and it's a Channel Fireball event, I feel like maybe he's just getting what he normally would.
I also feel like he would do this for free, but
because he's just that kind of guy.
I feel like he deserves to get paid for this, because not only is he going to be playing the matches and being on feature match, he's also going to, in between matches, run over to the booth and talk about his match. Mm-hmm. He's going to be commentating his own damn matches.
Which is awesome. Using the miraculous time warp tech.
Dude, that's insane. Like, that is insane to me.
So, what let's start with this. My hopes for what this will be. So, we're following Reed Duke through the tournament. We're going to be watching Reed Duke's matches via time warp after the feature matches are wrapping up.
Also, let's just not forget that he is I doubt he plays elves. I'm almost positive he's going to play Grixis Control. And let's not forget that is probably one of the most difficult decks to ever play in all of Magic ever.
So think about this. Not only is he playing a GP and trying to do well and be successful, but also on his mind he has the stress of, I have to go talk about my own matches. I have to be on camera. I have to be, the personality that I am. But I think they picked a great guy because Reed Duke as a person is just who he is all the time.
Oh, no, I literally think that, like, you could play Reed Duke, lose to Reed Duke, and still be like, dude, I got to play Reed Duke. You wouldn't even be sour. Like, has anybody ever had a bad beat story against Reed Duke? They're like, oh, he drew the extra bolt. No, they're like, he was Reed Duke, and he just beat me.
And he got it.
It was awesome.
My hopes is when Reed, after his round, whether we watch it in real time where he comes into the booth and commentates on his own match, I hope, because the way they've described it, to my knowledge, is you're following Reed Duke's experience through the tournament. So I don't want to just hear Reed Duke talk about his matches, his card choices, and his play choices. I want to hear about Reed Duke, how he actually feels, what he's thinking going into a match. How,
which I think will happen while he's talking about his match going into the next one.
Because if you've ever played in a GP or if you've ever played in an Open, you know that it's stressful. It really is. Especially like my first experience with it has been recently, being 5-1 and getting called to the feature match area at being a top table and never having done that before. That is a very stressful experience.
Here's the difference. Reed Duke's done that 100 times.
Exactly.
1,000 times.
But interestingly enough, that stress made me, I think, play better than I had all day, which is cool. So I just that's what I hope. I hope Reed Duke gets more into, because it's more informative to me as someone who's striving to be a player similar to Reed Duke, in the sense that I want to grind tournaments, I want to be successful. I want to know less about his actual play, and of course I want to, because I love Legacy, I want to know all of the interactions and everything like that, and specifically what he thought in particular instances. I also want to know how he approaches this emotionally and what kind of mindset he's in going into matches.
Well, from watching his videos in like a league, or like he did a seven round Jund video not long ago, you know that he's like very even tempered, and like if his opponent does something well, he's cool about it, and if his opponent does something poor, he usually doesn't make fun of them or say something bad about his opponent, which I find a lot of streamers and personalities will kind of
harp on their opponents.
If like an opponent makes a play that's questionable, a lot of the times, like, people will kind of say mean things.
The most they'll elaborate on it is like, yeah, that was bad. I don't think I would have done that. They don't look at they don't step outside of the box and think, okay, maybe why did he make that decision?
Yeah,
he or she.
Very, very rarely says things like, that was, you're bad. Like, he doesn't make general blanket statements like that. I think that's one of the reasons people like him so much. It's like
He's really honest.
he's just a very positive and even-tempered fella.
Yeah. So things that
I will say this: I'm going to root for him to win the whole thing.
oh,
I
absolutely
think it would be the coolest thing ever if they do this for the first time and then he just goes all
kills
the way.
it, and yeah, and that I think that would make the okay. So the upside, it would make this new coverage event very successful. On the downside, it would set this precedent where whoever they're covering, you assume that they're going to do super well.
Now, here's the bad part. Say you're going to a GP. You've been grinding for a while. You're very prepared for this GP. You want to make a name for yourself. You're playing maybe not even a rogue deck, but you're playing like a deck that like, okay, this is a good deck to
Like you
get
made a meta
covered.
call or
Yeah,
something.
Typically in a GP or an open, like if you pick a kind of a cool deck, you get called up early. Excuse me. You get called up early and then like you're winning and you get to keep going back to that feature area because people are like, oh, that deck's kind of cool. And then you start to build a name. But if you get spotlighted 3 times in an open or a GP, people are going to be like, okay, I know who that guy is.
Yeah.
Like once, whatever, we're going to forget you, especially if you lose. It doesn't matter.
That's how I found out about Clay Spickelmeyer.
Yeah.
In opens. Like when
started,
I first saw Clay, I was like, oh, he's playing 5-color Death Shadow or 4-color Death Shadow, whatever he was on at the time, and I was like, wow, that seems bad. Like I've never seen this deck before, and he does super well. And then I saw him consistently throughout the tournament, and then I established like, okay, Clay, like now I know Clay.
Right. And so, like, if we move to this format where, like, we're just following Reed Duke, then
Or-
we never learn the other because we don't
Like
care
pro
about
player
the other
X.
person.
Yeah.
Because you're never going to see that other person again if Reed Duke wins. And even if Reed Duke loses, we're still kind of following Reed Duke. So it's not like we're going to jump over to, person X or person A and be like, okay, now he's like 6-0 in the tournament. Should we follow him some? I worry about it for people who are trying to build a name in the community, and I do think, especially with all this Hall of Fame voting and stuff going on, it's way harder to build a name in Magic community than it used to be.
Because everyone's so focused on this certain group of people.
Yeah, let's talk about people like Kazu Negri. He has been grinding his ass off for years now. Honestly, years now. He is a great player. He has some top 8s. He's done some great things. He's still barely a name people know. You know what I mean? Like, and he's a kind semi-local player. He's from Morgantown area. I think he should be a name more people know. And maybe if he really I don't think he's like a guy who wants to go all in. This is his career. I think he has other passions. But because the dude's calves are literally like the most giant calves I've ever seen in my whole life. I think he likes to run.
Yeah, back to being healthy,
but
along with playing.
Dude is insane calves. Like Kazu, literally your calf game, it's like the envy of most weightlifters everywhere. I would never want those fucking tree trunks, but dog, you got some fucking curves on you. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, that's a dude. That's like, here's an example of a dude who he really has put work in. I mean, he's a great player, but it's so hard to build a real name anymore unless you literally work for SCG. The only reason I really am impressed with Todd Stevens and why I was like, okay, I'm down with Nate's weird passion for this guy. The dude came up to Cedric. I think his story goes, he went to an open, he went up to Cedric and he goes, you're going to be seeing a lot of me. And he was an MTGO grinder and then was like, I'm going to start going paper events. And then he walked up to Cedric Phillips, shook his hand and said, you're going to be seeing a lot of me. I'm going to be a name on the circuit. And he worked his way into, I don't know if his life is any better, but at least he's probably happier because he's doing what he loves. I don't know if he's financially any better than being a teacher and he was a tennis coach. But the fact that like he did that, he's like one of the few people I know that have actually been like, this is what I'm going to do. And he kind of manifested that into reality. It's so hard to become a personality in Magic now.
Yeah, well, like, for me personally, I'm approaching it with the same mindset, but I don't care if people know my name. I just want to grind tournaments and do well.
The best way to make money in this game, though, I think now is to be a personality over. I mean, let's think about it. Saffron Olive doesn't play any tournaments, paper tournaments. In fact, he admittedly was like, I don't even know if I could play a paper tournament because I will forget every trigger, and I don't really think I can play in real paper.
Because he plays exclusively
Because he
MTGO.
only plays MTGO. But then we've got people like Logan Nettles, who is famous for MTGO, but how many people really know him unless you're super deep into the world? How do you, if I said the name Logan Nettles, would you be able to tell me what his name is on MTGO?
No.
It's Jabberwocky. Do you know that name?
Kind of, yeah, actually.
He's probably one of the
biggest
names on MTGO ever.
You see it all the time in leagues and challenges.
So Lewis CBR, one of the biggest legacy names, period. Don't know who the real guy is, but on MTGO, I know he is. But how is he going to make a personality for himself? Like, he can't unless there's a bunch of legacy events. So, like, I don't know. There's this weird thing where, like, if you really want to make it Magic, you need to become a personality. Andre Maguchi became a personality. Jerry T was successful, but more than success, he became a personality. More than being a professional Magic player, his podcast is doing really well because he's a personality.
Which is great. If you guys love listening to Magic podcasts, go listen to Jerry T's podcast because it's wonderful.
I mean, if you're listening to ours and you haven't even listened to the game yet, I mean, I almost don't even want to tell people to go listen to it if they haven't heard it yet.
Because they'll never come back.
Why would you ever listen to our podcast? I mean, here's the reason why you would listen to our podcast over there is because we're just going to talk about what we like and things that we feel.
Yeah.
They're going to be very, like, they have a nose up a little bit attitude towards everything.
I also consider...
I think Magic players just have a nose up attitude towards
I also consider our podcast to be a reflection of the opinions and mindsets and thoughts of bad grinders or your average or above average competitive player. And I'm
gonna call us maybe even below average. Who knows?
Well, I don't want to set that precedent for myself when I have this goal in mind.
Right. And I don't either, but I also don't want to be...
I don't want to act like I'm the greatest of all time because I'm certainly not by any means 100%. I'm not
honestly
great.
We don't have that many like prestigious qualities between us.
Yeah.
I got close to top 80 in a GP. It was Legacy. I was playing Eldrazi. Cool. I have a few high place finishes in Legacy. When it comes to every other format, I've basically kind of been bad. I mean, I've won a couple PPTQs. I've done terrible at the RPTQs. Like, I'm not really like, I'm about as mid-level as you can be.
Yeah.
And like, you're just now getting into the
exactly.
real grinding.
I haven't, like, I've only been playing the Modern.
Which is the hard. I think the hardest to like qualify for anything in because Modern's just
I think with how much I've enjoyed playing Arena, to be honest, and how much I've enjoyed Standard, even in the state that it is post rotation, I think I'm absolutely going to get into Standard in paper because it's so much easier to not SCG because SCG is almost exclusively Modern and Legacy, but as far as GPs, like there are a ton of Standard GPs.
Well, I honestly think they're all kind of dying just recently. But I think once rotation hits, I think Standard is going to be a lot bigger than it used to be. Right, this last season,
because this is a huge rotation.
Honestly, this last season there was hardly any Standard GPs either.
Well, to be fair, the format's kind of stale at this point.
Yeah, and I think everyone knew it, and they were like, "Fuck it, let's just not do this right now. And like, let's just play the things people like. Let's play team events. Let's play Modern events, and then we'll have a Standard event sprinkled in. There's no like strictly Legacy events. Even the Legacy GP that we have coming up this weekend is like bookmarked with a Standard GP. So. But I definitely think that people are going to be way more interested in this Legacy GP than they are in the Standard GP. So imagine if Reed Duke was playing the Standard GP and we were following him around playing
no one
the
would
same
want to
deck.
watch it.
Okay, red black versus red black over and over and over and over and over again from the same player. No, it'd be fucking over, dude. Fuck that.
So, and that's a great segue back into the whole Reed Duke thing. My worries about
Oh, geez, we got way off of that.
yeah, my worries about the new form of coverage with following Reed Duke is depending on how they do it. Specifically, if they watch the majority of Reed Duke's matches in real time and not the time walk, like, okay, the round is finishing up.
Right.
Duke hops in the booth. We talk about his match. I feel like people may get tired of watching the same deck over and over again. But the fact that it's legacy,
Oh, it's
even the same deck over and over again,
Is gonna
every
look
match
different.
is going to look different.
dude. It's like if you've seen Reed Duke play Jund, and I don't even like Jund, and I can watch Reed Duke play Jund because of the decisions that come with that deck. If you play Grixis Death Shadow, I think you could watch him play Modern all the time because I think there's even more decisions in that deck. Watching him play Legacy Grixis Control is going to be like basically every game is different sideboarded. Like your sideboard options are crazy insane. Like you could play anything. And your main deck is wild. And because of Brainstorm, you literally like so you know how people are like, "Oh, I drew the wrong half of my deck." Brainstorm and fucking Ponder fix that. You know what I mean? Like we're gonna get to watch him play the best possible cards against the best possible cards. And if he doesn't have the best cards in his hand, he's going to mulligan wisely and correctly. And we're gonna get to see somebody play the best cards. We're gonna get to see one of the best players play the most powerful and best cards ever against the most powerful and best cards. To me, that is hands down the coolest shit.
Yeah, it's going to be super fun to watch, but at the same time, it's in the nature of the game that regardless of what cards you're playing, you still get bad beats sometimes, and it's very possible that you just draw dead. Like
it's just
like,
a lot less possible
going back
with
to
Brainstorm and Fetch
going back
Lands.
to Gucci's recent video, and okay, so he's not playing Brainstorms and Fetches, and he's playing against exclusively Brainstorms, Fetches, and Wastelands. It makes for this kind of like, okay, he got all my lands on every turn.
Yeah, I mean,
And
sometimes that happens.
that's just what happens.
But with Grixis,
Sometimes
that's why
it'd be like that, though.
So here's what I think. If it was him playing Elves or if it was him playing Eldrazi, I would be like, yeah, people are going to get bored of this.
Yeah.
And I, as a huge fan of Eldrazi, I can admit 15 rounds of Eldrazi, by the end of it, you're like, I do this thing. And yes, I have to make some decisions, but your decision is usually turn one, like, do I want to play this? How do I sequence this? Eldrazi is all about sequencing. When it comes to like playing Grixis Control, though, we're going to be seeing things that are just
these little micro decisions that make the difference.
You're going to see different cards every game.
Yeah.
It's not like it's just going to be the same. I mean, of course, you're going to see Brainstorms. Yes, you're going to see Ponders. You're going to see a Lightning Bolt here and there. You're going to see a Jace or a Liliana. But the way that the game plays out is going to be so much different because you have all these options.
Yeah, because it's a non-linear format for the most part.
It's just wild.
And it's cool too because like
I wanted to run a league with that between the two of us.
Yeah.
And me playing like 2 games with the deck, I was like, dude, I don't think we could. I don't
you
fucking
don't think we can do it?
Like, we can try, but the deck is so good that I think we might even just have some good. Like I won some games, but then I was like, this literally every play is hard.
Yeah.
Every play is hard. My land drop is hard. I don't even know what to. The whole deck is entirely more difficult than anything I played.
Yeah.
And I think that Grix's Death Shadow in Modern is a very difficult deck. I played Amulet Titan. I think that's a very difficult deck. Nah, it's not as hard as this. Just too many decisions.
Yeah. And what a better player to pick to play it than Reed Duke.
Exactly.
You know, who is very good at thinking through difficult decisions and very
good at explaining it.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
This is why I can't wait to hear him talk about it.
He's very open and honest and good at discussing the choices he makes with every play. So that's our info about this upcoming GP. One other point I wanted to hit on that's a little bit results oriented. This previous weekend, all of the coverage between the GP and the the Open, a deck that performed very, very well, and kind of, I guess you would say, the breakout deck for the weekend that has overtaken its predecessor is Hardened Scales Affinity.
Oh, I was gonna say buy your Jace Mind Sculptors because blue-white.
Oh yeah, blue-white too.
Control just kind of
blue-white looks gross.
I knew you were going with Hardened Scales. Yes, Hardened Scales Affinity. Here's the weird part though. We were all saying that in our chat groups, right? Everybody was like, oh, Hardened Scales is the new Affinity. It's just what's going to be the thing. Modern Challenge happens. It's like 4 regular Affinity decks in the top 8. I don't know what's going on. I think that, yes, I think that Hardened Scales might be the new de facto. I mean, we saw people like Peter Tiberghien play Hardened Scales.
If Peter Tiberghien, if you guys don't know him, he's the Affinity guy on the SCG tour. Like, I played against him recently. Played against Affinity. He played Warship out of his sideboard against me. Like,
but he's known for doing weird things too. So
yeah, which is kind of cool though.
So I could definitely see him being like, let me try this deck once. He's also known for a tournament where he traded decks with Dylan Donegan before the tournament because they were bored of playing their decks. So Dylan Donegan played Affinity and he played Grixis Delver or Grixis Death Shadow, and they both top 8'd. So it's not like he's just like a schlub player.
Yeah, no. He's great.
With a deck that is extremely hard to play, ended up top 8'ing.
Yeah.
But I also think that Affinity is extremely hard to play. So they're just both very smart and good players. But anyways, what I'm saying, I agree though. If he's like on it, it definitely there's definitely a sign.
Let's put it this way: if we go to the next Modern Open, and Peter Tiberghien is still on Hardened Scales Affinity,
I will start to think that there's something going on.
Yeah, but
I'm already thinking there's something going on, and I have been. But at the same time, the Modern challenge for the weekend really shocked me. I was like, really? Like, there was 1 Hardened Scales Affinity and then like 4 regular affinities.
But you also have to consider like what metagame percentage regular Affinity was, because if there's double the amount of regular Affinity as Hardened Scales Affinity, you're gonna see more 7-0 lists.
Maybe it's not good though. Like, regular Affinity is so bad. Like, I was just shocked that many. There can't be that many people playing just like regular Affinity all of a sudden.
Well, Hardened Scales is very interesting. I played against it recently in a league, and had been my first time outside of when you were on it for a little while, for like a week.
I've never really even played it the real way.
Yeah, the way it is now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even really play it. We didn't even have we didn't have anything.
Yeah.
We don't really know it.
We just kind of saw the list and thought it was cool and threw together what we had of it and just played it. But this was the first time I had actually played against Hardened Scales, and it is much more difficult to play against than regular Affinity. Regular Affinity, I know what it does, and it does it well, and whether or not I'm good at playing against it is irrelevant. It's that I know how to. It's just like, more specifically, when do I force Arcbound Ravager sacks and stuff like that. It's a whole nother. Take that line of play. When do I try and kill Arcbound Ravager in regular Affinity?
It's just like,
and stack a million counters and other triggers on top of it and Hardened Scales,
right,
and then try and figure it out.
When it really comes down to it, the difference is that it is an Arcbound Ravager deck compared to a kind of an Arcbound Ravager.
A cranial plating deck.
Yeah, that's basically it. Like that, and it's crazy. And like the fact that you can just bust somebody out of nowhere with a ballista, or you can poison somebody in a one-shot turn where you had nothing on the board. If you really want to watch Hardened Scales, go to SCG last week. They did Hardened Scales versus Everyday last week in their games. You can watch 5 different matchups in Modern. Hardened Scales versus 5 different of the biggest decks. The deck is really good. I think it's here to stay. It's very hard to play. But it's just, if you like math, if you're Frank Karsten, go play this deck.
So at the GP, I'm so glad you mentioned Frank Karsten. He was in the booth for a lot of the GP this weekend, and Hardened Scales comes on, and it's taking Frank Karsten longer to calculate combat math than the player playing Hardened Scales. Like, that's a hard deck.
He might have just like worked through. Yeah, that player might know it. They might. I think it's going to take a while. It's similar to KCI, where like you just you're gonna have to work your way up to like knowing like
all the ins and outs.
if I do this, it's like I know this is how many counters I'm getting. Like it's not going to be second nature right off the bat, but once you start, if you've played the deck 15 times, you're going to start to be like, yeah, I know exactly how this sack works.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's going to pretty much wrap up our episode because we've really just talked about everything. And next week, you can look forward to hearing us talk about, I think we should really do that. Talk about the difference between a channel fireball and an SCG grinder. And just your regular, maybe, and we incorporate MTGO grinders. I'm definitely willing to do some research about more Magic Online grinders, and let's see let's talk about that.
Yeah,
let's
and we'll go more in depth into the state of the game versus the way it affects you wanting to do well at GPs and make a name for yourself versus how it favors people who are already popular. Just a lot of interesting points like that. So look forward to that.
We're also going to be able to talk about what happened this weekend at the Legacy GP,
we'll be probably talking about that a lot.
But if you like this podcast and you want to hear even more, then fucking subscribe, dude, and fucking, you know what else?
Yeah.
Fucking write a review on iTunes because that would be super helpful. Because
Yeah,
we don't have any really. We have like one.
Tweet at us too, man. Share us on Twitter.
And you know what else? We're about to we're getting off this podcast. We've dedicated our entire night to this, which may not sound like much, but dude, we're busy, and we're about to play a Legacy League to put up on YouTube so you can watch because we want people to fucking enjoy our content and have fun. So watch it if you want more of us. All right, I'm Seth. Don't call me Jack Wilds, and this is Mackenzie Erwin. Peace.
How lucky can one guy be? I kissed her and she kissed me. Like the fella once said, ain't that a kick in the head? The room was completely black. I hugged her and she hugged back. Like the sailor said, quote,